Let's go. It's episode 617. That's all this paper's here for. Episode 617, Sold Not For Sale podcast. Coach Colin here. We got Donald Trump. He's asked the very last question of this interview. And in my opinion, this question is the craziest of them all, borderline insulting. And she could, this is almost treason. It's almost a little treasonous what this lady's suggesting right now when she asks this question. I don't understand what she thinks. I don't get it. I don't know what she thinks he's going to say. It's just, maybe it's a setup of some kind. I have no idea. You can't put it past her. MSNBC can't put it past her. Maybe that's what it was. I have no idea. But let's get into it. Before I do, of course, I'm going to bring you to the store. I am. Let's not fight it. You got the Sold Not For Sale shirt up first. A bold statement. Make yours. Hoodie, t-shirts, tank tops, whatever you want. We also have the Public Enemy #1 shirt. Check it on out. Google the World Economic Forum. Please, Google You Will Own Nothing and Be Happy. Google how many cricket factories have opened up throughout the U.S. and Canada. Google that. And understand quickly why this gentleman is Public Enemy #1 and the certified pure blood shirt. For those of you that remain unscathed, untainted, unwavering, thank you so much for your service, because I know it feels like you were just doing what you wanted to do, but you were truly doing a service to the whole country. Believe it or not, this is your certificate of achievement. Get yours now. We got tank tops. We got t-shirts for men and women. We got hoodies. We got t-shirts. We got mugs even. Okay. And if you liked any of that, if you want anything, check out the site. We have even more designs than what I just showed you. If you want 10% off of anything that you see while you're in the store, all you have to do is put in the discount code I am Coach Colin, all capital letters, all one word, one L in the name Colin. That gets you 10% off. And if you've done that with us already, thank you so much. You're much appreciated. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Let's get this last question. Let's get it.
Question, Mr. President. You have met with prime ministers, kings, queens, dictators. You've seen it all. As you think about the possibility of a second term, do you still think that democracy is the most effective form of...
Is democracy the effective form of government? Treason. That's it. That's what I would say. If I look at his eyes, he's just like, is she serious? Is she serious right now? What is she asking? Did she not go over her notes with anybody? She's in America. You're in America, and you're asking if democracy is the best form of government? Hey, you go to jail. You're lucky it's such a great democracy and that you don't have to go to jail. You have freedom of speech. But if you were in one of these places that didn't have a democracy, you're going to jail for what you just said, man. I don't know where you think you are. Craziest question I've ever heard an interviewer ask a politician. I know she's not asking Biden that. She's not asking Ron DeSantis those type of questions. Only Trump would get a question like that. I'm telling you, I think it was a setup. Here, let's go back. Let's go right back. I'm agitated with that question.
He does all the time. If he went to the beach and didn't do anything, we'd have a great border right now.
Final question, Mr. President. You have met with prime ministers, kings, queens, dictators. You've seen it all. As you think about the possibility of a second term, do you still think that democracy is the most effective form of government?
I do, but it has to be a democracy that's fair. This democracy I don't consider us to have much of a democracy right now. They indict their political opponent. Free speech is shot because the press is very dishonest, I have to say. Even the way you fight me on simple questions like, the border and this, you fight me so much. And I'm saying, why are you fighting me? When I first ran, the approval rating of the media was very high, and now it's very low. It may be below Congress, which is pretty hard to believe. People understand what's going on. We need a media that's free and fair, and frankly, if they don't have that, it's very, very hard to straighten out our country.
Did you feel as president you had enough power, though? If you were reelected, would you try to find ways, for example, there's a report you're looking into firing, potentially, people within the federal government who aren't necessarily perceived to be loyal? Would you need more power? Do you
Well, just so you understand, that's what the Democrats do, okay? They do it in spades.
Would you do that?
They do it at a level that you wouldn't believe. I mean, nobody's ever done. No, I wouldn't do that. I want great people, whether they're Republican or Democrat. I want great people. But I want people that love our country, not people that hate our country.
Anything else you'd like to say?
No, I think it's good. I think we did. We did a lot.
Is there any scenario by which, because Ron DeSantis says if you were elected, he'd have 2 terms and you'd only have 1 more term. Is there any scenario by which you would seek a 3rd term in office?
No. Just so you understand, when DeSantis says that, that means he's not your man. He's not your man anyway because he's a very untalented guy, and he's proven that. He started out, everybody was talking to him. After I worked him over a little bit, he's gone down the tubes. I think he's going to end up being number 3 or 4. He just had a poll today. He was number 4. And by the way, the one that was number 2 was 59 points behind. So, you know, it's very interesting. But when somebody says 8 years, we need 8 years, no. In 6 months to a year, many of the problems, almost all of the problems that you and I have just spoken about will be solved. Anybody that says they need 8 years, you don't want that person.
Thank you, Mr. President. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, and good luck.
We went all around the...
Holy. After I worked them over a little bit, wow. What a New Yorker, man. New Yorker to the core. After I worked them over a little bit, showed him who's boss, he's singing a different tune now. Wow. But he's right, though. He is right. As soon as he got a taste of that Trump style, you know, you get a little nickname, you get a little down talking, you get a little George Soros money exposed. All of a sudden, it's like, whew, you're done. I was rooting for him, too. But yeah, like Trump said, he worked them over. What do you guys think about that question? Now, here's the thing. I get why Trump feels this way, right? He's in the belly of the beast. He's had to fight it. He is fighting it. Looking at 700 plus years in prison if like convicted of everything that they're accusing him of, right? So I get why he's saying it doesn't look like much of a democracy. When you're literally like, I'm going to run for president, and then all of a sudden you get 4 indictments thrown at you, and it's obvious that it's happening because of the person that you're running against, the main person who is the acting president at the time, you're going to feel like democracy's shot. But the thing about it is, when I hear a lot of people say that, when you're in the heart of it, when you're in the best scenario of it, anytime it erodes even slightly, which I mean, you know, in recent years, it's been a little more than slightly, especially when we start to look at how much the alphabet companies are getting involved and having influence. Like, I understand that, but when it devolves even just a little bit, it seems like it's terrible, and a lot of people will feel like it's dead, but it's not dead, right? Like, but how often do we go over to China and have to live as like one of the mainlanders, someone who has to work and see how it is there? You know, you look at your phone, or you pick up your phone to call somebody, and as you're calling them, the government takes over the line and says, hey, you know, Johnny that you're giving a call to right now, he actually owes the government $2,000. And you should actually say something because we're listening to this call. And if you don't say something, you're kind of against us. So make your pick. Like, that really happens over there. That's a real thing. I'm not making that up, right? When you owe money, they make sure to put you on blast with all of your family and friends. Anyone who calls you, anyone who calls you is told about whatever debts you have, and then that person has to say to you, hey, you know, you should pay that debt back as soon as possible. You should do that. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. So it's not dead, right? Because you could see places where it's dead. You know, you can go to Africa and see certain places where there's still warlords running into villages. That's where it's dead. You can see it in China. In China, it's dead there. In Canada, it's dying very fast. It just looks weird. It just looks weird with Trudeau. He just seems odd. He seems very oblivious, but then also seems like, I'm never gonna leave office. Like, he has that kind of feel, you know? He's like a rainbow Putin almost. Very close to it, it's hard to see, but if you look close enough, you can tell. So there's certain places where it's dead. Freedom of speech is dead. It's not dead in America. It's not. It's really not. And again, it's hard to tell, because when you have experienced exactly what it's supposed to be, and even the slightest bit of it gets taken away, you're supposed to be mad. You're supposed to be upset. But you can't roll over and just say, well, it doesn't exist anymore. That's not true. It's still there. It's like there's a tug of war going on. And every time that your side of it gets pulled this way, it's not time for you to let go of the rope and say, we already lost. That's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to pull back as much as you can, as hard as you can. Get as many people to help you as you possibly can. You don't let go of it. It's not dead. It's not. Now, I say all that where I actually meant to ask a question. Do you think she was right in asking this question? Do you think there's other ways of governing? I do not. I do not at all. As much as you can look at the two-party system and go, oh, it's an illusion of control. They're making us really think that the votes matter, but they really don't. I get it. You can do all that. But I think America is the best example of how to conduct the ideal of what it was set upon is the best way to conduct things. Socialism is garbage. Communism is garbage. Totalitarianism is disgusting. Authoritarianism is disgusting. Democracy is the way, right? And like Trump said, it has to be a fair democracy. And wherever it wears away, there has to be people, we the people, who step in and repair it as much as they can. And never forget what it's actually supposed to be. That way, when your kids ask, you can actually tell them, this is how it's actually supposed to be, which is why the Constitution exists. That's why the Declaration is that's why it exists. So you can reference back and say, well, this is where we are right now. What's it actually supposed to be? Oh, it's actually supposed to be this. Okay. So everywhere we can, we should try and make this more like this. I don't even know what to ask, because I don't want to ask this question. This is the democracy is the way. I'm being a dictator about it. Democracy is the only way. What a crazy question to ask, though. Do you think it was a setup? I think that was a little bit of a setup, because if he had said anything other than what he said, oh, well, I've seen China, and maybe they'd be like, Trump is thinking about becoming a dictator for a second term. I think they would have, I don't know. Very interesting question to ask. Nonsensical in my opinion, but it makes you think. What are they trying to do? And also, maybe for her, maybe thinking she gets her talking points from that company. That company is connected to other bigger companies. What do they think? Do they think there's another option? Do they think there should be another option? I don't know. I hope not. I mean, Maxine Waters. I've heard Maxine Waters. I've heard Justin Trudeau. I've heard various other politicians say things like, we have to do this to keep up with China. Or, in Trudeau's case, he was like, I admire China. He's like, I admire what the emperor has been able to do, or president has been able to do. It's like, what? What are you talking about? That's like watching Jimmy what's his name? Jimmy Dahmer. What's that murderer's name? Any murderer, and being like, I'm really inspired about how he handles his problems. It's like, what? What are you talking about right now? What are you saying to me right now? I don't know. But all in all, honestly, with this interview, this woman was very respectful. She said, thank you. She said, thank you for doing this. Calling him Mr. President. If this was like Caitlin Collins or something, she would have been like, hello, felon. Hello, future inmate. I have some questions to ask you. And if you answer them, I'm going to interrupt you. So she would have stood there with her smirk that she has. Mr. President. So all in all, she was pretty respectful, as respectful as you're allowed to be when you're a part of the mainstream media, But let me know in the comments. If you haven't liked this episode already, like it. If you haven't subscribed already, subscribe. And also hit that notification bell, because we're making 1 to 3 videos a day, and it gets hard to keep up if that bell is not hit. Hit that bell. Other than that, I am out.